Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. Welcome back to the Summer of Jank, this time with Justin.
Hello.
How you going, dude?
Yeah, not too bad.
Awesome. Let's take a look at some X-Wing First Edition lists. Now, a quick bit of housekeeping before we do. It's about a month before Second Edition comes out at the time of recording this video. My plan is to get 2 more of these out. I think I can just manage that. Please be aware that this is subject to what information FFG give us, what other things I have to make videos on. I prioritize the news videos because that's what brings in the views and that's what gets the channel moving forward. I have to prioritize those guys. But I am aiming to get 2 more of these videos out before we go on to Second Edition. Anyway, let's jump over to the list. We have one list from each faction. First of all, the Rebel faction. Let's bring it up here by Mr. Jeffrey Schaefer. We have a list with Garvin Dreyers, Nora Wexley, and Benthic Two Tubes.
It's 99 points as well. Garvin has Veteran Instincts, R2D6, Renegade Refit, the Servo S-Foils, and Integrated Astromech.
For a total of 25 points too. Nora Wexley has Outmaneuver, Saw Gerrera, R5P9, and Alliance Overhaul.
And Benedict Two Tubes has Sensor Jammer, Recon Specialist, Countermeasures, Pivot Wing, and Renegade Refit.
So I wanted to make sure we did a little bit of the stuff that came out in the Saws Renegades pack, because we've been focusing on a lot of lists that were submitted a long time ago. And I did want to make sure we talk about these because they are having an impact on the meta. And particular, that Garvin Dreyers build for 25 points. Just look how much, look how far these are getting pushed. And Garvin Dreyers was a playable X-Wing pilot before the fix. Maybe not so much in recent years, but towards the end of X-Wing seeing play was pretty much him and Biggs. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. We have cleaned up the design going so much in the Second Edition. 3 days ago, I posted a video on Second Edition lists, and this list we see in front of us is a classic example of how much things have been cleaned up. Renegade Refit, Integrated Astromech, all these just little free cards that are just a big wall of text that are designed to fix things that can't be fixed without cards. Now things can be fixed without cards, and that's very relevant. And talking about Garvin Dreyers, I think for 25 points, that is a very competitive thing you can put on the table. PS8, sharing around focus tokens, just all seems really, really solid. And specifically, passing around those focus tokens, where else on the list do we have the love of focus tokens? Benthic Two Tubes with Recon Spec can pass off his focus tokens. Nora Wexley doesn't really care about focus tokens, and I think this is actually a good thing because she can generate focus results, but then she has ways of using them. Alliance Overhaul in the rear arc can change 1 focus result to a crit for free, and if she happens to get a whole heap more, either through her ability or whatever, Saw Gerrera can turn them all into criticals anyway. And I think it's a good thing, giving yourself this much flexibility with focus tokens. If you have to use them defensively on Nora, you can do that, and you're not going to lock out her ability in Saw Gerrera, all that kind of stuff. You can give Garvin Dreyers focus tokens with Benthic Two Tubes, and then Garvin Dreyers will shoot first because he's PS8, and then you can pass off the focus tokens to whoever else you want. Benthic also gets an extra focus token from Recon Specialist. That's good, so he keeps it on defense. It's just nice and balanced. I see a lot of Rebel lists where, oh look, I can combo all these focus things together, but it's just too much. This is just the right amount. Comboing with Nora Wexley's ability to get focus bonuses without using tokens is a really good thing. And specifically, Saw Gerrera. I wanted to have a look at a list that used Nora Wexley and Saw Gerrera together.
Yeah, this is just nice.
It's just nice. That's it. It's just nice. Nora Wexley and Garvin Dreyers should have decent attacks between them. Benthic Two Tubes brought down to a reasonable cost. What is he now? 32 points, which seems all right. I'm not sure about countermeasures on Benthic Two Tubes. I just don't think he's high enough priority to really worry about. I think if you table this against your opponent, they're going to go for Nora Wexley every day of the week. So countermeasures doesn't really appeal to me, and neither does Sensor Jammers so much. Honestly, I'd lean into something a bit more aggressive, go for like fire control systems myself.
Yeah. What would you use instead of countermeasures?
We don't need a second modification. realistically. It's only one modification too.
Yeah.
There's even the extra slot as well. So with fire control system, I just don't think it's overly relevant.
Okay.
I don't think the really defensive turtle abilities of benthic 2 tubes is really going to entice your opponent to attack something else that they weren't already going to do anyway.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I really changed in this list. I just like the way it's balanced out. The U-Wing and X-Wing now at a relatively competitive cost alongside an Arc 170, which should hit like a brick, seems pretty solid. Seems like a lot of fun. A lot of fun interaction, but not too much. I like that. Okay, let's take a look at an Imperialist. This one here by Clay Clark. And the reason I want to have a look at this is because we have sort of a Palp Aces style list in that we have a very powerful crew which supports the aces that you're flying, but we have no separate support platform. Director Krennic is sitting on one of the TIE Phantoms. Speaking of which, both TIE Phantoms, Whisper, Echo, alongside Dark Curse.
Whisper has Advanced Cloaking Device, Veteran Instincts, Fire Control Systems, and Director Krennic.
Echo has Advanced Cloaking Device, Veteran Instincts, Collision Detector, and Agent Callus.
Dark Curse has Stealth Device.
And just first of all, before we talk about anything else, this is 100 out of 100 points, and you put Stealth Device on Dark Curse. I don't think it's worth giving up the bid. I think you really just want to have that 3-point bid. If anything, there are other ways to use the points, which we'll talk about in a second. You actually mentioned in the comment, Clay, that you would give up Stealth Device for the initiative. It's a bit of a medical, but I think in general, you just want that initiative bid. For sure. Also, you've got Collision Detector on Echo. That's got to be Fire Control Systems. I know it's fun to decloak through rocks, and yes, on Echo it makes sense because you have more choices where you decloak, and you're opening up the possibilities. I just think Fire Control Systems, the ceiling on that card is just way too... it's just so good. And that's cool. That's cool. Nothing else really jumps out at me in terms of what I do differently. I like Dark Curse because he has a bit more defense. He's a bit more of a dirtly ship that's going to annoy your opponent.
Yeah.
And if he can take an extra round or two to get killed, that means that your TIE Phantoms can capitalize off that and do some more work into the late game. So, yeah, there's not much I'd change here. But just as a thought experiment, Krennic in a list with no Reapers, no Lambdas, is very interesting to me. It pushes Whisper all the way up to 44 points. But at the same time, it's an interesting thought experiment. Maybe you fly this Whisper alongside two other aces, maybe not Dark Curse and Echo, maybe two cheaper ones. Maybe like Inquisitor, Omega Lead, or something like that. There are options there, and the idea that we can have Krennic in a list without Palp, without a Lambda or a Reaper, is very appealing. One of the biggest issues with Palp Aces is you have to devote a platform to making Palp work. That's fine. Palp is well worth the payoff. But can you get more value if you just have 3 platforms that can do all the attacking?
Yeah, and not only that, you've still got Agent Callus, does a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. And even in 2nd edition, how is that going to work? And even moving into 2nd edition, Phantoms, surprisingly to me, still have crew. So this might be something to play around with moving into 2nd edition.
Nah, they need it, I reckon.
The issue with that is crew is such a high utility card on aces that is potentially has issues with design. That's my biggest issue, especially things like Seasoned Navigator and something. You can basically put stay on target onto any Phantom now, which could be fine, could be bad. We don't really know what precedent that sets. But what my point is, you can do things with Krennic and other support-type commandery crew cards for the Empire without the need to have a Lambda-class shuttle or a TIE Reaper. And that's potentially very interesting. I don't know what that really means, but
I want to put some more work into...
Yeah, playing around with that. I think Krennic in specific on a Phantom is great because he gives it a target lock.
Yeah.
And that's just really, really cool. And then you can put fire control systems on to your Phantoms, which again is good because you just get more value. You get more value. And that's just really, really cool. There is no Veteran Instincts. Fire control systems can't go on them natively anymore. There's no Advanced Cloaking Device. We really have to think about how to build these guys out. Yeah. It's a bit of the Wild West when it comes to Phantoms in 2nd edition. But in terms of 1st edition, I love it. It's great. If you like to fly Phantoms, this is going to be a really fun list.
Yeah.
Whether they're too expensive, I think, is the only real question here. But you're not using Palp, so this is the way you counterbalance that. So I think that's really cool. One last list we have here from Mr. Alan Frost for the Scum faction. This is a couple of Alpha Strikers alongside a Sarge Ventress, which is an idea I've wanted to play around with myself, actually.
Yeah.
Sarge has Pushed the Limit, Shadowcaster, and Lats Razzie.
Captain Jostero has Veteran Instincts, Harpoon Missiles, Black Market Slicer Tools, Vaxi, Vectored Thrusters, Guidance Chips and Munitions Failsafe.
Alongside another Kirax fighter with a Black Sun Ace, Adaptability, Harpoon Missiles, Black Market Slicer Tools, Vaxi, Vectored Thrusters, Guidance Chips, and Munitions Failsafe. So floating around a few of the shops I've been playing at, I did notice Black Sun Ace ×2 with Harpoon alongside a Sarge. This is a little bit different in that we've invested in Captain Jostero. You've gone really hard into matching pilot skill. I don't know if that's specifically necessary, but having said that, there's nothing really here which is unideal if you want to match pilot skill. I think the only thing you're really missing out on is those EPTs with the Kirax fighters. We could be using Crackshot instead, which makes the Harpoon missiles just a little bit better. It means they're going to trigger a little bit more likely. That's all good. But if you want to go pilot skill 6 across the board, that's up to you. It really is a meta call, though. Pilot skill 6 across the board is not something to me that strikes me as going to match up specifically well against things in my local meta, in the meta in general. Might be different for you, though. Your local store might be all IG-88s. Okay, that's fine. Okay, then you want to fly this. Absolutely. But we also have the option of going Crackshot on those Kirax fighters. And on a Sarge, you could keep Push the Limits. I think there's a great argument to do it. But you could also go Veteran Instincts and Gyroscopic Targeting, which is personally what I do.
Yeah.
Only because I find PS8 is very relevant on a Sarge. But again, that's a meta call. Gyroscopic targeting loses its value when you have pushed the limits because you already have a lot more agency to move the arc without gyroscopic targeting. Although gyroscopic targeting works better when bumping is involved because you don't need to take actions to move your arc, which I quite like. I also like glitter stim and that kind of stuff, which means... And the value of those also goes down drastically with push the limits. So it's really leading into a different kind of build that I'm personally used to. So I'm not really going to question it too much. I think it's perfectly playable. The lack of a list on a Sarge does hurt a little bit. I'd love a glitter stim, a black market slicer tool, maybe a contraband cybernetics, but I don't think it's going to break the list if you don't have those. You've invested more points in the rest of your stuff, which makes a lot of sense.
So would you be using black market slicer tools on
the Kirax fighters? With Lats Razzie, my gut instinct says no, because you already have value out of the stress tokens that a Sarge gets onto your opponent's ships. Black market slice tools may, in some situations, be amazing. You might manage to slice off your opponent's Sunterfell or Inquisitor. Again, it's a meta call. If your opponents at your local gaming store is only flying Inquisitors, holy moly, this is going to be matching up great against those. But if they're not, I'd just go for Contraband Cybernetics. In fact, in general, if you don't really know what you're going to fly against, if you're going into a tournament completely blind, Contraband Cybernetics, I think, is going to be fantastic on those Kirax fighters. It means they can K-turn, target lock, and fire those missiles, which is just beautiful. K-turn, even K-turn and barrel roll, vectored thrusters. They don't really have any other ways to stress themselves, but it's going to happen. You're going to need to K-turn them eventually. Alpha strike, K-turn, bring them back, and then still have actions for barrel rolling, focusing, target locks. There are really a lot of options you can do with them. I personally love to fly Kirax fighters with vectored thrusters and contraband cybernetics because it really opens up what they can do. And it plays into their versatility. It's one of the things that they have over the Protectorate Starfighters, which cost the same amount of points, but usually performs better. So that's pretty much the main things I'd be concerned about. In the comment below your list, you mentioned you might consider swapping out Lats Razzie for Ketsu Onyo. I don't agree. I don't think Ketsu is going to give you as much value with Lats Razzie. Ketsu allows you to keep tracked tokens if you keep something in their arc. That's good, but I think Lats Razzie is going to be more relevant more of the time. If your opponent wants to stress themselves out, or you're going to have more agency over those stress tokens than those tracked tokens anyway. So I think the right call is Lats Razzie for sure, if it is between those two things. You could think about Ketsu Onyo being the pilot and have a much lighter build. Veteran Instincts instead of Push the Limits. And that's it. and then just cut off Lazrazi and have Shadowcaster. Veteran Instinct Shadowcaster, yeah, then you can play around more with track tokens. But I think the right call is Asajj. She's just more consistent. She just gives tokens. She doesn't have to have the arcs lined up and all that kind of stuff. That will change moving into 2nd edition. Ketsu Onyo looks a lot better because the cards combo better with her ship, and Asajj is way more expensive and has to use force tokens, and then there's agency to get around it if your opponent spends green tokens. So, 1st edition, it's Asajj. It's Asajj any day of the week.
Well, thank you very much for these lists, guys. The Summer of Jank will continue. Please post your lists for either 1st edition or 2nd edition down below.
Please, if you can, as text is the most desirable. There's a few list builders floating around. Yet another squad builder is what I use for both 2nd and 1st edition. You can view your list as a simple text and then just copy that into the comments. That is the best way for me to see them. It makes it the most clear and legible for me to decipher and then add to my document and talk about and all that kind of stuff. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Reddit. And I'll catch you guys later.
Bye.